life literally shifts. I was actually just thinking about a week ago, our conversation, and how
Yep.
much just more confidence I have in aligned action and walking the path to create different timelines. Yeah, so go back and listen to that episode if you're anyone listening around manifesting because Marston never used the word manifesting, which I think was important. Honestly, I was thinking about that to telling you is I loved how you talked about timeline work
Yeah.
without using that buzzword, and I think it clicked for me in a different way because of that. That makes sense.
It totally makes sense, and I'm so glad it clicked for you and that it was so impactful. Because I mean, really, that's what switched on for me. Like, when I started on my spiritual journey, right, like, I was hearing all the buzzwords, manifestation, spirit guides, like, you hear, like, what this new I keep saying new age, but that's really, like,
Yeah.
the new age spirituality movement, right?
Yeah.
And it was really all like, it was also intriguing to me, and I wanted to learn more, and I knew it resonated, but I was like, there's something else here. There's something deeper. And then when it started kind of coming through in the form of downloads of like quantum physics concepts and just like how this really all works, which is manifestation, it's just using different language. That's how it's for me too. So I'm really glad that that resonated for you. I feel like that's important to like another example of what we've talked about with language and how like all these things are really it's all the same conversation just wrapped in different language.
Absolutely. And I think, well, first off, if you're listening today, we're talking about telepathy, which is another form of language, which is really funny. Now that we're talking about that. And I
Yeah.
think language is so important, even when we do this, because we could be thinking something and know what each other are talking about, but maybe someone else on the other side doesn't. And so I also thought about that
Hmm.
after last week of like being so impeccable with language, which is also one of the four agreements. Now that that just dropped in. But it's so
Oh
important.
yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you
I'm
go.
like,
I wasn't
I could go on so many different tangents.
you go, you go.
I was just gonna say, like, but what you were saying with like, knowing what the other person is thinking, and just this is what like you and I do when we get in this flow. Like, this is what it's like to be in the flow in the channel with whoever it is you're talking to, whether or not they're embodied or not. And this is actually, I love this segue. That's how it's channeling through right now. You can be in the flow and in telepathic communication with someone who's not in body, someone who's not in this physical dimension, which we'll get into all of this. Which is how I receive a lot of my communication is telepathically from
Mhm.
these beings from spirit and mediumship and channeling. And but it's interesting because it works the same way with somebody that we're talking to in another body like me and Lauren right now. I mean, this is like the language of the universe. This is energy. And when you're locked in, it's like quite literally just these light cords like beaming back and forth, from your electromagnetic field to mine, from your third eye to mine. And it's like we'll receive these concepts before they're verbalized. So we'll know often. Lauren and I do this all the time, if you
Mm.
guys can notice at all. But like she'll start saying something and I'll like start nodding because I'm like, I know exactly where she's going with this, or like, and vice versa. You'll start to know something before I say it. And then we start talking too quickly because we're, because our thoughts are getting ahead of our words.
Yes, so true,
But that's
and that
telepathy.
I love that, and today you're gonna channel through me, like, together, like, you're gonna channel for me, and so it's gonna be so fun to watch how quick that comes about, of watching you in that flow, and you guys, she does live
Yeah.
TikToks every Sunday, and I just got to watch you live channel, and
Mhm.
it is the coolest thing ever, and how you really do just drop in to people's guides, to their own channel. It's just wild, even just on TikTok live and just other
Yeah.
people asking questions and you being able to just, do it. It was so freaking cool, and so I'm excited for it
Yeah.
to happen here so you guys can witness it if you're watching the video, and, yeah, that's why we do start talking, and it's our Aquarius. We're both very Aquarius people, so
I
we're
love this.
fast.
Oh, very, very, very. And thank you for saying that. It's so funny because I've always been such a fast talker. When I like, it's funny because I'm always very articulate and I'll enunciate my words, but and sometimes I can really be slow with what I'm saying, but it's because it's coming through so clearly. And then other times the channel will just be so fast, and I'll just be like, oh, and then like I'll forget to even breathe. And so it's just funny how like the cadence can kind of pick up and slow down depending on like what wants to be emphasized and how it comes through.
Mm,
So yeah,
mm.
we'll talk about more about that. But
Yeah,
anyway.
it's awesome. So let's get into to telepathy because truly the astrology, and I said this, well, I went to a workshop 7 years ago, an astrology workshop, and he said this older gentleman who's been studying for decades, and he was like, in 2025, when Uranus moves into Gemini, telepathy will become the main form of communication by the end of that 8-year transit. And what he also
Mhm.
said was that is why we all need to be healing our stuff now. Because he said, with Uranus being the planet of collective thought, being able to attune to someone else's frequency thought form, and then it being in the sign of communication, it's going to create that as to be
Mhm.
our normal communication. But Neptune, the planet of unity and blurring our consciousness together, is going to be in Aries. And he was like, if you have not identified your wounds, taken responsibility over your own karma and trauma here, people are going to be able to read it so clearly. And I didn't 7 years ago really understood what he was saying until now with telepathy of when you walk up to someone and you can feel their anxiety or you can feel their fear. And I'm like, oh my God, because now we're attuning so clearly. Maybe I don't know exactly what they're thinking, but you attune to that like kind of energy. And I was like, this is what he was talking about. And it's crazy
Yep.
7 years later to be here. And now we're talking about it.
Oh my God, this is so cool. Wait, also, Lauren, really quick, I totally forgot to ask you before. It just came to me. Do you have the like comments, or if
I
someone
do.
like is typing a comment, do you have those?
Pulled
Okay,
up.
just wanted to make sure. So yeah, okay. I don't know why that I was just like, wait. Okay. So I love all of this so much because it is so relevant. And I don't know, Lauren, have you listened to the Telepathy Tapes podcast by Kai
I'm
Dickens?
halfway. So, yes, I know about the hill and I haven't heard after the hill.
Yeah. Okay.
It's so cool.
So oh my God, it's amazing. And this is really like the new human. This is our new potential. This is consciousness expansion. And this is what happens when we start moving into fourth density consciousness. And when we do start exploring into these outer rings, as I like to say, rings on the tree, because then you start overlap, you have the potential to overlap with other rings, right? With other tree rings that are also operating in these outer densities. And that's like what they reference in the hill in the telepathy tapes, right? Where these people, these autists, but also other people too, who are doing this work and who are exploring these realms, can go to have experiences with these beings, extraterrestrial beings, extra dimensional beings, these kind of astral realm beings of sorts. And what's so cool to me is that whoever ran that astrology call that you were on 7 years ago was exactly right, because 2027 in the gene keys or human design, I know you said 2025, but it's all wrapped together because Richard Rudd talks about this. He founded the gene keys. 2027 being the year of the new human, it's the human genetic mutation taking place. And I think this is so amazing because this is what I've received in my downloads and telepathic communication as well, which is that we are moving more toward a telepathy based communication, and we have everything to learn from people on the autism spectrum. And I mean, this is just like across the spectrum, not just nonverbals.
Mhm.
But um energy is the language of the universe. And so many, in my experience, like through my lens, many of these extraterrestrial civilizations, including the human ones, are already existing where telepathy is their main language, and
Mhm.
they have ways of kind of guarding, and it's like there's etiquette, just like there is here. Like you wouldn't say something to someone, right? Like that's rude
Yeah.
or unkind. They're the same way with their thoughts. So it's just like another step. And what I've learned when my guides made contact with me was, what one of the first things they said was, your thoughts are so loud, like you don't realize how loud your thoughts are. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, one, like yet another thing for me to worry about intrusive thoughts with. Like, don't tell me that. But it is true. And they were saying it's not so much intrusive thoughts, like those are passing and fleeting. It's what you put and place intention behind, and what you have emotion behind, and what you keep repeating and just emitting out to the field. And that has to also to do with the frequency that we're emitting at any given moment in time. That has to do with what we think about ourselves, the stories that we tell ourselves. But also, I mean, I have some stories about where telepathy actually came into play with me before I knew that I was tapped in like this.
Mm.
And it made me feel very displaced at like friend dinners. Like, I mean, truly, like people who were my friends, quote unquote, where I would go and I would pick up this energy of like, I know they were either just talking about me before I arrived, or they are thinking something about me that doesn't match the words that are leaving their mouth. And I remember feeling very confused by this because I was like gaslighting myself. And we don't realize how common this is because every single one of us is innately and inherently telepathic and energetic in nature. So we pick up on these subtle subconscious energies without being aware of what we're picking up. And then we leave like a conversation or interaction being like, why do I feel like this? They were so nice. They didn't say anything wrong, but
Yeah.
something here doesn't add up.
Yes,
I feel
and
like you
it
were just going
reminds
to say something.
yeah, because it just reminds me of, like, when someone's mad at their partner or, someone feels a type of way and they're like, "What's wrong?" And like, "Nothing." And it's like, "No, you can read your partner's energy. You're on the same frequency. You live together. You know." And so when you say nothing and then the other person gets mad at you, it's because they're picking up telepathically. This happens so much when I had therapy clients,
Yeah.
because the other person either was unconscious of what they were emitting or
Hmm.
emitting, or they just like weren't ready to share it. But it's like that person picked up on it. And so yeah, it's just interesting. A
Yeah.
lot of fights happen.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I mean, and that's what we need to learn. And I remember even like with some of my friends who kind of fell away when I started stepping into, this version of myself and the work that I'm now doing and what I'm speaking very openly about,
Mhm.
that a lot of my friends just didn't have the capacity to understand or hold space for. And I remember, being with certain friends when like my psychic and mediumship abilities were starting to really crack open. And I remember I would start kind of mentioning this to some of them without getting into details. And what they were saying was okay. Like it was by no means like very supportive, but it was like nice enough superficially. But their thoughts, I remember thinking this at the time too, even before my guides came in and made contact. I remember thinking,
Your
I
wait,
feel like
hold
their
on.
thoughts.
Your volume's becoming kind of weird. And I don't know if I think it's your headphones.
Um,
Okay, you're back.
does this work okay?
Yeah, you're back. I just didn't want that to keep going because you're saying really good things and it's going in and
Thank
out.
you.
Yeah.
If it happens again, interrupt me again.
I will.
Um, so I remember, yeah. So I remember thinking, your thoughts are really loud because yeah, you were kind of saying the right things, but your energy was saying something very different. And I left just feeling like, and I think this is what causes a lot of dissonance. I can think of very specific, one person in particular is coming to mind very clearly right now.
Mhm.
She actually disinvited me from her wedding because she didn't understand like what I'm doing. And so it was like this whole thing. Um, and I remember just feeling like I felt our friendship separating a while ago because I was so tuned in without really having the language to describe this. And she was under the impression that like what I'm doing now just came out of the blue and came from nowhere. Um, but I had really like already kind of been talking about this. She just wasn't really listening and couldn't really hear what I was saying or like didn't want to believe that I would actually do something like this. But because my intentions were pure and what I was saying was matching my energy, I don't think she was quite picking up. Like it was like there was a dissonance um, of what was being said and what was being received, if that makes sense.
Yes. I would always tell my clients there's 4 people communicating. 2 egos, a soul and an ego, the other person's soul and the ego, and then the 2 souls. And that is why there's so much miscommunication between people at times.
Yeah. Oh, that's a beautiful way to put that. Because it's so true. I mean, and I think that's where intention comes from. Like my guides have told me, just in different downloads and whatnot, you can be you and I've talked about this. You can be operating at such a high frequency, at such a high level of consciousness and intelligence, if you're operating from authenticity, like you can still be this high frequency, right?
Mhm.
But they've told me that it's not so much that it's not intelligence, it's intention is the true measure of consciousness. And I think that is so cool to think about, because that's when it really matters. That's when like the intention is of integrity, right? So like it might be, it's coming from a soul-led place, a heart-led place, but it's something that your ego is on board with, even if it's not necessarily what your ego like wants or thinks it wants.
Mhm.
The two are talking in harmony.
Yes.
And so that, I think that's when we can really like harmonize and be resonant with the same frequency that we're receiving.
Yeah, like your defenses are down. The ego is just like, "Okay, I'm with you."
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally, totally.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's just interesting to think about all this. And I love that the telepathy tapes came out after I was like kind of coming to these realizations on my own and with my guides. And then I felt so validated listening to these stories and listening to the fact that like this research has been deeply suppressed intentionally, obviously,
Yes.
because they don't want people coming into their true power. And that's what this is. If we can learn to communicate telepathically, which we are already doing on a subconscious basis, that is like a major catalyst for consciousness expansion.
Totally. And what I've noticed, okay, so that guy said 2025 because, July 7th was when Uranus moved into Gemini. And what I've noticed since then is my mom and dad, they're both heavy Gemini people. They will be talking about someone, haven't talked about this person in years, they've called. Literally
Hmm.
years, right? It keeps happening. My mom keeps calling me like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Cuz you're a Gemini, you're opening up to this ability." And
Yeah.
in 2027, like you're saying, when the gene keys is the year that all the outer planets stay. So we still have through 2025, Uranus is retrograding back into Taurus, Neptune's retrograding back into Pisces, and Saturn's going to be back into Pisces. This next year and a half is where we can really do the internal work to attune to what you're speaking of right now and learning to trust it. Because in 2027, it's going to be fast, it's going to be quick, and it's going to be I don't want to say painful for people. I mean, we have talked about that the shock that is coming
Hmm.
if we don't harness the next year and a half of really doing
Yeah.
the work of trusting ourselves and trusting this communication, because in 2027 this will be new, and if you're not kind of with it or getting it, at least opening up the door, it's going to be scary, it's going to be weird, there's going to be a lot of fear around it.
There will. And I think that's, I'm actually just writing about this in my book right now. So I love that this is what's coming up, because it's about like the people who are kind of fighting this or resisting this new information coming in,
Mhm.
because new information will contradict oftentimes what we have built or constructed our realities on, and the information like leading up to this. So
Mhm.
we're so accustomed to resisting anything that's new or anything that contradicts what we think we know to be true or what we've been taught to be true. And so what you're talking about is like the perfect example of this, because people will be experiencing ontological or existential shock when this happens, because they're going to be confronted with this information in a way that they cannot ignore or deny. But that resistance, that element of still like, no, I'm rejecting this, is going to, it's going to be what makes it so difficult, because it's happening either way. And like just because you don't want to believe that certain things are true, doesn't make them not true.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was
So
thinking about how you just said that we're learning a lot from people with autism, and I was driving this morning, and it made me think about how masking was the way that a lot of people on the neurodivergent scale had to just function through reality.
yeah.
And now the mask is going down. We're
Hmm.
encouraging for people to be more authentically themselves, to not mask, to fight against the system that has created them and forced them to mask, to be in that sit in the chair, think funnier, da da da, right? The patriarchy. Um,
Yes.
and that is falling, and not only for people who are neurodivergent, but for everyone in telepathy of like, there's no more masking
Hmm.
because we are going to be loud. Our antennas are going to be up. And so it's
Yeah.
becoming so authentically you, because either way, you're going to be seen. And that fear of being seen, I think, is such a fear for all of us for different reasons, core wound.
Hmm.
But that came up for me this morning, like, oh, we're all our masks are coming down. So now it's like, how authentic are we going to be?
Yeah. Oh my God. That you hit the nail on the head. I mean, and because it's we cannot ignore this. Like it's we're not going to be able to hide our intentions anymore. Like it's just it's going to be so transparent. And I think
Mhm.
that's also where, like right now, we're seeing the beginning of, the crumbling of Hollywood, um, and the crumbling of like these idols. And we're seeing the rise of what people are calling like the micro influencers, right? Which are like it's just like building these micro communities around the world that are all kind of talking to each other like a what's it called, a micellar network, the mushroom, like the mushroom, is it mycelian?
No idea.
I think it's mycelian, mycelian network. But anyway, it's
Oh, like
just this
hundreds of
network of,
trees?
yeah, 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 it's this network of communication taking
Mhm.
place. And so it's like all these communities, these like little hubs that are then like informing and feeding into each other. And so we're going to see, the rise of authenticity really taking center stage and the complete collapse of idols. This is about us all meeting each other where we are and learning that no one is the hierarchy is false. That's a patriarchal capitalistic narrative and it's falling. And like the more people try to kind of resist that, the more they're going to come up against this. And I think that's really like when we think about this consciousness expansion, when people say like the new earth or moving into like 3D to 5D, like there's all those buzzwords around it. But that's really what this is really just kind of the dismantling of like propping up the pyramid, and it's just us kind of all meeting each other where we need to be met and rising together. It's not like
Mhm.
us, it's not someone rising on the backs of the others. It's just built on authenticity.
Yeah, and it is happening at such a fast rate, and the system's fighting against it. I mean, the people on social media who are really speaking truth are becoming more and more suppressed. And something that I've never
Yep.
seen on TikTok is I've never seen the same video multiple times. My feed is cycling videos now, and it's the same
Yeah.
people. I'm not seeing anyone new on my For You page, and it's the same video. I'm like, whoa, TikTok algorithm has never been like that before. And they know that as these micro communities rise, we are all rising with it, and they're just
Yep.
trying their hardest to suppress it. But the light it's gonna break free. I mean, because we're all tapped in
It
now,
is.
right?
We are like everyone's already kind of like, oh, wait a minute. Like even if you're not fully on board with what we're talking about, you're at least curious. Like you're at least a little bit, there's something in you that's a little sparked. Like, huh, more and more people are talking about this. I wonder why. Like, and that's all it takes. You don't need to be on board with everyone right away. You don't need to be on board with everyone at all. But like, it's going to happen either way. So I think that's really what this is like, it's just a little seed planted here and a little seed planted here, and then something else comes in and it waters that seed, and you're like, huh, there's more to this than I thought. And so they can't stop that spread because it's already happened. I mean, this is like we have already won, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah, and even the analogy of the mushrooms underground, it's like when you cut down a tree, it does disrupt. That's why it's so sad when people are just leveling their yards for grass. It's like you guys
I
are
know.
disrupting the complete ecosystem underneath. But mushrooms are intelligent and they figure out how to get to one another. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Like, no matter how much you want to suppress apps, there's going to be a new app, there's going to be new things, people are going to be louder, and it's going to work.
It's gonna work. Yeah, exactly. It's frankly, it's just too late.
It is.
It's too like they're not going down without a fight. They're going down kicking and screaming. And it is going to get more chaotic for the next, I would call it 18 months. Um, I mean, I would love to know the astrology behind that, of course, but like it's gonna get a lot more chaotic. It's gonna get a lot deeper, and just like because this is what has to happen. Like you have to go deeper to go up further. And like the deeper you dig, the darker it gets, the denser it gets. And it's also like cleaning out a wound. Like for generations now, we've been putting a band-aid on a bullet wound, and this is like, all right, now it's time to really get in there and clean out the wound and remove the bullet. And that's a really messy and uncomfortable and painful process. And it's the only way to really create meaningful healing and to regenerate those cells.
Yeah, and to think about the astrology, wherever the eclipses are landing is oftentimes eclipses represent fate and destiny. It's times, especially in ancient times, where people did not know what was happening. Kings were dying, power
Yeah.
was being exchanged, right? People are being eclipsed. And so they would stay inside because they're like, whoa, what is happening? Obviously, you could see it in the sky, but also on earth, they could find a correlation. And so the signs are so important. And right now it's in Virgo and Pisces. And the North Node's in Pisces. So we're awakening to the interconnectedness of all of us. But
Yeah.
February is the first one in Aquarius, and that's where Pluto is. And that is the authenticity, the community aspect, because it's Leo Aquarius axis. So from February, for another 2 years from there is where the eclipses are coming. So it is going to be earth shattering. Pluto literally cleans out all the things that have been decayed, put it on center
Hmm.
stage, makes us look at it. And so it makes sense that it's 18 months because that is during the Leo Aquarius eclipses where it's going to blow the popsicle scan. Like it's kind of right now we're all like, okay, my intuition's building. And then it's like, holy
Yeah.
shit, extraterrestrials, which is actually probably a great time to even talk about that with telepathy, because when the
Yeah.
North Node hits Aquarius, all of us are going to be eclipsed in this area of our chart. And this is where interdimensional being, I don't even know, just said that right, will be more mainstream. And
Hmm.
we're going to have experiences, which is also about the fake experiences that could come too.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't
I'm
realize
like,
that. I was like,
well,
oh, yeah.
which one are we diving into first? I mean, I feel like, well, let's stick to telepathy for this,
Yeah.
but there is a lot more to say about all of that, the false narratives.
Yeah.
Um, but it is interesting. So more and more people will be, I get asked all the time, like on my TikTok lives that I'm doing now. That was my first one on Sunday. So I imagine this, I'm really excited to see like what continues to happen and unfold on them.
Yeah.
But I love it because people are asking all sorts of questions about like what, like, can you tell us more about open contact and like what that will look like? And I love these questions because when I first started learning about open contact, I was thinking like, this is it's like a layering process. Your consciousness can only understand through the filter and lens that like it's currently operating on. So like if you hear open contact and you haven't like really reached this level of awareness of like what extra dimensional or extraterrestrial beings actually are, and like what is the multidimensional nature of our world, if you haven't like thought about that and you hear open contact, you just think aliens, you think spaceships coming dropping down from the sky landing on the Washington DC lawn, otherwise known as the White House lawn. I don't know why I said it like that.
I love
But
it.
like you think like D-Day, or like just it's like the anarchy. And I think
Which
what
I
people
would
need to
say because of
understand,
Hollywood, that's how they posed it to us.
100%, and it was done that way intentionally, which we'll have to get into more because that feeds into the false, like kind of the control narrative with this. Um, oh my God, I'm like here. There's so much coming through right now about all this. Like it's like what's actually going to happen versus like what they're going to try to paint is happening. So I guess I'll just say from a truthful standpoint of like what's actually happening here with open contact is more and more people will be receiving telepathic contact first and foremost.
Okay.
More often than not, I would say 9 out of 10 times, contact happens energetically before it happens physically. So, like I was told in my contact experience, it was very, very real in every sense of the word, and physical in certain ways, but not like in my physical reality. I was taken to another location through my consciousness and
Mhm.
experienced that physically, but but these beings weren't presenting, like I couldn't like touch them like I'm touching my water bottle, in my physical reality. But that comes next. So like this was like the preliminary initiatory phase, and so many more people around the world, first of all, many people around the world have already experienced this. And a lot of people don't really know that it is what they're experiencing. Like I've had so many people message me being like, I actually, what you said just made me think. I had this kind of weird experience and I wanted your like thoughts on this. And I saw these
Um,
orbs or I saw these lights and I received this really warm feeling of like love and I got full body chills and kind of felt like I was floating. And then I heard a voice say something to me and I'm like, yeah, like that's what this is. And like, but like people don't know that because we have never been taught about any of these things,
uh-huh.
you know?
Yeah.
And so more and more people are going to be having experiences like this. And if we meet these with fear, which by the way, like benevolent contact like this will never incite fear. It's going to make you feel so loved and so taken care of and so supported and so excited and like you never want it to end. Um, Actually, some people have reported like being depressed afterward because they were like, wait, like
Yeah.
come back.
I could see
So
that.
I just want to say, if yeah, like if something happens where you are fearful and it incites fear within you in your body and you're like something's not right here, that's not benevolent. But that's not gonna happen because those beings are no longer like doing that here. They've been kicked out. This So really it's kind of a moot point. But the reason I say this is because if you feel fear because it's the unknown, because it's a vibrational frequency that you might not recognize, that's okay. They're not gonna do it. They're not gonna scare you. Like they're not gonna come in and just be like, "Hey, it's us," and like reveal everything and be like, "By the way, extraterrestrials exist and we've been here the whole time." Like, no, that's not gonna happen for you. They're gonna do it in a unique, individual way based on your own life path and your soul agreement that you have. They're going to do it at a time when it is most relevant for you to experience in your life.
Well, I'm
And
laughing because that is me. Like, I'm
I
terrified.
know.
And as much as I believe in this shit, like full body, I'm still terrified. So I'm so excited for you to channel
I
later.
was just gonna say, I can already feel it coming through for you.
Yeah. So I'm like, if you're listening and you're like, what the fuck? That's so scary. Aliens. I'm like, girl, what people, I'm with you. So I get it. And I love hearing you say it because I
Yeah.
truly feel like someone's gonna pop in the corner and be like, sup? Like, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, no, yeah, like, and I just wanna name that, right? Like, I don't wanna be here being like, "Everybody needs to welcome with open arms, like, and be ready for this amazing experience." Like, no, like, I'm never gonna say that, but what I am gonna say is, it is going to be happening more and more and more, and it is nothing to fear. It is very much an experience to welcome, but it's going to be done at the right time. And
Mhm.
like if you're not ready for it and you're not and you are in fear, like your guides know that because because you're always in telepathic communication and because time is non-linear. So like they're it's not like they're with you like people I just want to like say this too. When people are like, "Oh my god, my guides are watching every move." It's like, yeah, like yes, but no. Like they're not like with you when you go to the bathroom. They're not with you when you want privacy. Like they know these things. They know if you want to be like intimate with yourself or with your partner, like they're not gonna be like, hey, like
I've
they
never thought of that. Like, I've just never really thought.
it's so I get people asking that a lot. I thought that too. Like that was something that I thought about. I was like, nobody look, I'm going to the bathroom. It's like you don't have to actually say that. Like they know that because time doesn't exist for them the way it does for us here. Like they're aware of where you are and what you're doing, and like they're not gonna like
Oh.
tune in, right, and be like talking to you or watching you, unless it's something that they should be aware of or something that like you kind of want them to
You
be there for.
you shared, and I think this is really fascinating, that they tracked your heartbeat or something, so
Mhm.
they, like it's almost like a GPS, I feel like, and they can come to you when they needed you because your heartbeat was up or you needed them.
Yeah. So this is something that I like a lot of people who would resonate with the term starseed have. So like for me, and it's not everyone has this,
Okay.
but more and more people will. And like the more that you kind of expand your consciousness into these realms, it is kind of like a protective measure of sorts. But I have been taken on board their ships like multiple times when I'm asleep. They do this when you're unconscious because it's not meant to be like a part of your experience that you're conscious of, because that would then inform your that would kind of interfere actually with your own evolution. And so like they don't, right, like if you're meant to have that experience in your awareness, you will remember that. And more, and this is kind of part of open contact, Lauren, more and more people will be remembering these experiences and having these experiences. I've talked to two friends now who have told me similar stories about having dreams. It's so wild, having a dream where like they were kind of like visited in a way, and like something was done to their body, not in like a violation way, but just kind of like it felt like a routine procedure, and they were greeted like welcome back, like it, but they were now able to remember this memory. So
Okay.
this actually happens to us a lot, where we'll be taken up and we'll just have like checkups done. Like they just monitor us. They want to make sure everything's good. If something's like not good, then they're gonna kind of do some tune-ups, to make sure that we are flowing with our life path. We are flowing with what our soul came here to do. Like if
Mhm.
something's wrong in our body, they're going to make sure that we kind of, if it's meant for us, like if we're meant to have a specific disease or illness or whatever, like if that's kind of part of our contract to overcome, then they're not going to interfere with that. But if it's not, then they're going to kind of find a way to like fine tune it. Does that make sense?
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have several different implants trackers. One was done through actually a malevolent abduction when I was a child. I don't know if you and I have even talked about that,
We
but
have.
okay.
What age were you? Because I have
Um,
heard about it from an astrological transit.
oh, I was I think 11, like 10 or so. It was when I was in Breckenridge, Colorado at my grandparents' house. Which was in the mountains, also in the woods. It was very secluded. And we would go to the reason I say this is because we would go to Breckenridge around like between Christmas and New Year's, and my birthday's a week before Christmas. So it must have been like right when I turned 11.
Yeah, so I wanna look when we do your chart, I wanna look at the transits happening because 'cause I'd be very
Yeah.
curious since it was around your birthday, a lot of the planets are likely gonna be kind of near your birth chart, so will be interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that. And this was like not supposed to happen. So this was like a malevolent abduction that millions of people unfortunately have. I know we're kind of going like getting off topic here, but like have experienced in their lifetimes through like the grays, specific types of grays. Not all grays are malevolent, but these are the beings I was referring to earlier that are no longer allowed here. So these abductions aren't happening, but there were a lot of genetic experiments taking place, and there was just a lot of really bad stuff going on. So they actually implanted something in me. And then my guides, what happened later was they kind of like reconfigured what was implanted in me and like kind of like repurposed it or gave me a new one. There was something like with that. So that they then monitored me for everything else. So basically those like grays that I took taken me before tried to once again take me multiple other times, but they weren't able to because
Mm.
my guides like had this monitor within me. So like they knew whenever somewhat another like being would try to come in, they were aware of that and could stop it. So there's that implant tracker, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people have those, but then there's also like the heart rate monitors. So if this is really like to alert, and this is what I say, like your guides aren't always just like watching you. So, like they're doing things too. They have their own lives, but if we were to have something happen in our lives where like we have a spike in our heart rate, like something really scary is happening and like it's like a near death experience, this basically like immediately alerts them so they can immediately be wherever you are, to like prevent whatever it is from happening in one way or another, if it's not supposed to happen.
Mhm.
um so anyway.
By you
Mhm.
saying that too, I don't know, there's like a sense of peace of especially with the food down here, everything is toxic, everything is cancer causing
Yeah.
intentionally, right? They're trying to make us
Hmm.
sick. So it's like, wow, like if that is your path to overcome, makes sense. And if it's
Hmm.
not, like there's kind of a fail safe. Like your guides are looking out for
There
you if
is.
that's your purpose, which is kind of
It
cool.
very much so is, and I love that you said that because they have told me they're like, "This is kind of a part of this." Like, yeah, you volunteered to come do this mission on Earth, but we also like kind of asked you to. So like we're doing this together. This is our partnership and agreement, and like we're gonna keep you as healthy as possible. Obviously, like, we're not going to override your free will if you choose to like eat these processed foods all the time. Like, that's your decision. We're going to guide you not to, but like, free will is above all, is above all. But they're like, but we do recognize that Earth is largely corrupted in many ways. And so we're going to do our part to like keep to make sure that you're able to fulfill this in the way that you're meant to fulfill this.
Beautiful.
So yeah, so anyway, those are the like the trackers, implants, the heart rate monitors. There's like all these different, devices that are used. They like wouldn't show up in an X-ray. Like, this isn't like ancient technology like we would use here. And we're actually stepping more into this. Like, actually, Neuralink is kind of a part of this, and consciousness transfer, which is a whole other topic. But this is
Yeah.
what we're moving into, and this is actually all telepathy based, because it's all consciousness based.
Mhm.
This is like, we could talk about 0 point energy and the crystalline grid, and how crystals are like can power an entire city. Like, this is energy that's not, it's non-physical in nature. um and so anyway, this is how they started like talking to me. Initially, it was through this telepathic communication. And I'm telling you, the first time it happened, I felt this click in my ear. It was like I had a device, which now I know I do, but I just didn't like really have the language for this at the time. But that is telepathy being used. But it's also like, it's not, telepathy isn't like through a device necessarily, it's through a certain um level of consciousness that you actualize. And then that's how you're able to then communicate through energy with literally anybody and anything.
So when you are experiencing this conversations with them, is it you're seeing visual images? Are you hearing? Like, what is it like for you?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So it's kind of it depends.
Okay.
Sometimes when they're showing me concepts like quantum physics concepts, I will be shown this through, and the best way I can say this is, I'm looking with my physical eyes at the screen right now. I see you and I see me. But what this would look like is like a projected holographic movie scene. It's not just an image, it's like kind of moving.
Okay.
And it's like three-dimensional in nature. And it's like I could rotate it if I wanted to. I could like look at it from a different angle. And it's projected like right here. So it's like I can kind of see it, but I'm also seeing you. But
Uh-huh.
my focal awareness is placed on the screen, not the computer screen, the holographic screen in front of me. So it's like there's this layered dimension, or like a veil almost, that then like just kind of places itself there. So it's like I'm watching it on a screen. And so that's how a lot of these things will come in, is that it'll be like this download kind of dropping in, and I'll feel it. I'll get like crown chakra tingles. Afterward, I'll usually get like a really splitting headache, because it's like so much psychic energy coming in.
Totally.
Um, and then other times I'll hear them. Like, I'll just hear plain as day. I want to be clear about this. Like, clairaudience works in different ways. You can sometimes hear, like when I get like mediumship or like psychic information, sometimes I'll hear a word or a phrase in someone's voice, like an older woman's voice, someone with an accent, like depending on who it is that's talking to me. Other times I'll kind of just hear as if it's like a thought coming through, as if you would hear a thought like, oh, I need to remember to get my laundry out, like something like that. It'll come through that, like as subtle as that sometimes. And then other times it'll just click on, and I'll hear like a full blown sentence, and it's like we're having a conversation. And it's wild, because when this happens, it catches me off guard, and I'll catch myself trying to think about what I'm going to say, and then the voice I'm talking to, my guide, will be like, we know what you're thinking. Like, it doesn't operate like think and then speak like we're used to. It just
Mm.
operates like, just let it roll, let it ride, which makes it difficult a lot of times.
Yeah, which goes to the 2027 genetic mutation that the human design's predicting, right? In the sense
Hmm.
of these new beings are so intuitive emotionally that they're through evolution, right? We're going to not need that back and forth, to your point, of speaking anymore, because our
Yeah.
bodies are genetically different, where it's just like, yeah, I get it. Like they're just
Yep.
telepathic, but just the way you explain that makes so much sense that, like, you don't need to think anymore.
Good.
It just is there.
Yeah, good. I'm glad that makes sense because it is it's weird. It's like learning how to walk again. Um, it's like how to it's like learning it's flexing a new muscle that you didn't know was there. It's you know what it makes me think of is like the first time I did solid core Pilates, I was so sore the next like for days after in muscles that I didn't even know I had. And I was like, how did these
Oh.
get worked like this? I didn't even know they were there. That's kind of how this feels. It's like I don't know how to it's learning how to communicate in a new way than everything that you've been taught to communicate because it's
Which
just a
makes
stream.
Yeah, and it makes sense because in astrology, Mercury, the planet, is your linear mind here on Earth, and Uranus is in the sign of Gemini, and Mercury rules Gemini. So it's being destabilized the way we think, the way we talk, the way we perceive. That is literally Mercury and Gemini in our birth charts. That's what it represents down here. And so with this planet shaking up everything we've known around communication, it's not just yeah, it goes to how we think, it goes how we speak, it goes how we perceive things. All of that is what you're talking about. And so each of our minds will be interesting to see how our individual charts are reflected. So my Mercury's in air, yours is in fire, yours is in Sagittarius. And
Mhm.
yours technically is very karmic because it doesn't like to be in Sagittarius because it likes to be in Gemini. So your mind is already very expansive. It doesn't follow the linear path that society would want. And so you were able to kind of like
So,
tap into that. Yeah, easy, I think, because that's kind of your
yeah,
karma here of, oh, I need to do this
yeah.
quick. And that is why your Mercury was in Sag.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So I'm doing I'm doing it right. I'm harnessing the energy of Mercury in the way that it's wanting to be harnessed by doing this.
Yeah, because Sagittarius is all around that freedom aspect. It's around that
Yeah.
really wisdom and understanding things from a higher perspective, from a spiritual
Mhm.
perspective, the gurus, religion, all the things up here, where Gemini is down here, math, science. How does the universe work? Which now we know is all being turned upside down.
Right.
But for
Yeah.
centuries, that's been Gemini. And so your Mercury is in the opposite side. So you really do get these concepts very easily because that's how your mind works. Where someone who has a Mercury in Gemini,
Oh.
they're extremely smart, very intellectual. They got math, science really well. They can chat, they can talk, but we're moving, I don't want to say away from that, but we're expanding that. And your
Yeah.
brain was there, but maybe as a child, I don't know how you did with speaking and learning, but it was actually a little bit harder in the patriarch because it was designed to be very linear, if that makes sense. Oh, you're frozen.
Yeah, it does. I was always a really good student and really I was actually, like, really good at school, specifically with math and writing. Science was hard for me because I feel like I was already tuned into, like, what these concepts were, but, like, the way that they were shown in school, like, was not it just, like, was not supportive for however I was meant to do it. And, like, I was trained really well for, like, how to learn these concepts, like, and all these
Your
disciplines, math, science, reading, writing, whatever, like, what's
your
that?
audio and like stuff is kind of cutting in and out. Just letting you
Is
know.
it okay now?
No. Let's see if it
Mm,
will just kind of Okay, try again.
okay,
Okay, yeah, you're back. Let's
okay. Sorry, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's just
but
Wi-Fi.
yeah, I was just saying, I just learned how to take tests, how to pass tests, you know, how to, like, be a good student from a young age, which I feel like directly contradicts what I'm here to do. So,
Yeah. So
that makes
you
sense.
assimilated really well to
Yeah.
society, but you always knew like this isn't really how I learn or understand things, but I'm going to do it to be able to get past and get through the system I have to
Yeah.
get through.
100%. I was like, "Oh, okay, I get what they want me to do. Now I know how to do it well." Like, it was kinda like, "Oh, here's the mask. Okay, I like this mask. I can wear it."
I'm trying to
That's
think
exactly how I felt.
which makes sense because you're a Virgo rising.
Mhm.
And so Mercury rules you. So it is the most important planet in your birth chart. And so even though it's in its detriment, it's still so important to you. And that's where I find traditional astrology to be interesting. There's this person on TikTok right now that's like, any modern astrology is wrong. It blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what? Like, yes, traditional astrology holds so much amazing ancient information. However, we have grown consciously. So to just be like, nope, that's bad, and your mind is bad, it's not
Yeah.
real because your mind is beautiful and it's so intricate and it doesn't, you can't say hard and fast, oh, Mercury's a detriment, you're going to be dumb. No, you're a Virgo rising. It's so important. And also, it's in Sagittarius with so much other energy. And so I just find astrology is progressing. And so we honor ancient traditions and we also
Yeah.
understand that it's progressing. And so to only go off of tradition, I think loses a lot of substance, where her debate is the complete opposite, that modern astrology dumbs it down. I'm like, pop astrology dumbs it down, not modern
Yeah.
astrology. I think there's a difference.
Definitely. And I think that's a perfect example too of like, once again, everything comes from perception. Like, what paradigm are you existing in? 'Cause that totally dictates how you perceive anything.
Mhm.
Like,
Um,
people operating in a paradigm from what you and I are talking about right now would listen to this and be like, "That's insane. Like, none of this makes sense."
100%.
You know?
Yes. I don't know what's going on. Maybe try to take out your AirPods and see if that helps.
Okay.
Let's just see.
Oh, it says I can't switch mics while we're recording.
Oh, damn. I don't know if it's Wi-Fi or if it's the AirPod. Well, I mean, you have been cutting, like, it's grainy, but Riverside corrects it, which is great. But you kind of will come in and out, but maybe you're good now. You're clear right now.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Yeah. It just kind of like
It's
a
not
little
great.
robotic.
Dang.
I know.
It's not what I wanna be.
I wonder, we could always stop the recording and you switch mics.
Do you wanna do that?
Yeah. Let's just see what happens. Because we'll just go right back. Okay.
Okay.
Let's try that.